Gregg and Michelle Lee. We've been coming to Evergreen for 35 years or so. We're both professors at Pasadena City College. I'm recently retired from the corporate world and have enjoyed teaching, young minds now. And we are heterosexual. We have two sons and one who's gay. We came to Evergreen really shortly after the Hive. We were going to when the Hive. We went with SGB, Pastor Corey's church, and we're there for a couple of years, I think, or so. I think we would have generally identified ourselves as more conservative, 25 some odd years ago. And I think it's been a journey and a process for us, just as life has come about, not just necessarily LGBT, but just a lot of different things. Obviously, at mid-50s versus mid-20s, you just have different perspectives. And so I would say that we're less conservative. I don't know if we're progressive or liberal, but we're much less conservative than we were 30 years ago.
God has prepared us for this journey, in that when we had some marriage challenges shortly after they were born. So our pastor referred us to an MFT, marriage family therapist, who is gay. And he's really helped us through some challenging times. We've had difficulties in the marriage. I've had my health difficulties that he kind of walked us through. And so we now had a human being that was gay, right? And it was not, we didn't go to him because he was gay. It was just referred to us, right? And then Ken deciding 11 years ago to be on this journey. Now, we didn't know 11 years ago that Matthew would come out as gay. And so I think that God has really taken on this and prepared us for this, unbeknownst to us, beginning 20 years ago. I think it was easier for Gregg than it was for me initially. He came out to us in the fall of his senior year in high school as he was working on his college essays. And I think when he was growing up, we talked about it, that there were indications that it might be a possibility. And so he told us at home one evening, and I think I cried in the shower for 2 weeks. Afraid of or sad for the challenges he would face as a result of being a gay man, and just my sadness for him, and I think also for me. I learned through my own cancer journey that sometimes you have to dream new dreams, and you have to let go of the old ones. And then after those 2 weeks, I think I'd kind of moved forward, but came at a place where I wasn't crying in the shower anymore. And I don't know how much our family dynamics have changed.
I think the dynamics have changed for the better. I think we feel that he's more open to discuss more things with us. Certainly for 17 years, there was something that he would never talk to us about, obviously. When he did come out, he was writing an essay. His college essays were going to be about his journey. So he didn't want us to read it, which was completely unlike him, because he would let us read all this stuff for school, help him with an essay or something. And then I think I finally went to him and I said, dude, what's up? It's just an essay. What is it about the essay that you don't want us to see? And then he said, why don't you get Mom? I have something to tell you. And then bing, I knew exactly what it was. He didn't have to say. I just knew it. I just knew that that's what he was going to say. And I think it I guess a little bit disappointment in some of the same areas as Michelle, but more about, okay, now that makes sense. it was just like, okay, there's a story behind it, and now that it's out on the table, we can now, you know, directly be parents and allies to him, knowing what this truth is, versus kind of wondering, oh, you know, he's more artistic, he's more sensitive, he's you know, well, okay, what does that mean, and how do you connect with that, or how do you support him in the things that he wants to do? Now we know who he is, and for me, it was easier. Um, it was easier for me to then try to connect with him in a relaxed way, not trying so hard. I used to try really hard, you know, trying to take him to different things. It's easy to just go out in the backyard and shoot baskets with a son who is athletic, right? But what about a son who wants to listen to music or draw or go to a play or something like that? You know, it was more difficult, and I think it got easier and less orchestrated, I guess, once we knew that he was gay.
But once he told us, he engaged with us a lot. He was much more relaxed.
Yes.
And so he would watch TV with us or watch movies with us. And so it certainly changed who he was and how he interacted with us. There wasn't so much to hide anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big change for us. I'm going to read for you an email that I wrote. I think it's back in 2016 or 17. I think it's yeah. And it was one of my nephews came out, and I come from a family of where we have 3 pastors of my generation. And so one of my cousin's sons came out, and he's actually quite well known in the LGBTQ circle because of a podcast that he has. And so there became very impassioned emails going out, probably between 15 of us. And this is when I knew that Matthew was gay, but he had not come out yet. And
publicly.
And what we had said was that this was his story and that we would follow his lead. And so I knew that at some point it would come out. And so I felt that I needed to say something amidst, and we have a very wide extreme in our family.
But we got left, and right, and everything in between. I mean, it was, and the left and the right were going at it hard.
Yeah.
That's a real family. That's a real life family.
That's right. I like when you say that. That is true.
And one of the things, going back to one of your questions of what I liked about Evergreen and continue to like, is that, you know, Ken had started the message of it's messy. It's not so clean, and it's not so easy. And I feel that you have continued, and that our church has continued the authenticity, and that there isn't, there's not this line that can be drawn all the time, and that there's a lot of gray, and to learn how to live in the gray. So as far as how our family has navigated it, so this is what I wrote. It was easier for me to have a theological position when it was something I read about. All bets were off when I learned of people I know and love and respect that are LGBTQ and Christian. One in particular is our marriage and family counselor. He is largely responsible for helping us through the challenging times of our marriage, through the difficulty of cancer, and the tumultuous times of raising children. We owe him so much. We attended an event at our church that featured him as a speaker years ago, and I will never forget when he shared, "Do you think I would choose this? That I could possibly want this for my life, and that I wouldn't change it if I could?" I know enough of his life story to know his life would have been so much easier if he could have chosen to be straight. At church, we have heard gay children share, their parents, and a former bartender at the Pulse nightclub who attends our church's open door ministry. When I listen to their stories of rejection and despair and learn of their hearts for our God, it can't be a theological discussion for me anymore. When I hear that clubs like the Pulse exist because it is the only time they feel like they can be free, I can't have a theological discussion anymore. When I learned the suicide rates of LGBTQ teens versus other teens, I'm a mom of teens, so it can't be a theological discussion anymore. When I am challenged at church to take them into the fold or allow the foxes who anxiously await to snatch up our own, it's not a theological discussion anymore. Am I conflicted? Yes, I have some conflict. But ultimately, when I come before my God, I would much rather hear him say, "You loved too much. You gave it away too freely," than the alternative. Is it complicated? Perhaps. But since I am only a member of the church, I can choose to keep it simple. To love and accept. I'll leave the rest to God. That's how I've tied, or haven't tied. I don't know. I don't know what the theology is. I think it's gray, and I'm okay living in that.
Frankly, I've never heard anybody express it so well as she did in that email. It reminded me of what it was. That was just spot on. Spot on. Drop the mic. The whole thing.
Yeah, Michelle, when can we get you in the pulpit now? I think that's why Jesus came, is because he came to stand in the gray and make it easier for us just to love each other, right? There's you're like, you guys are getting mixed up with all the theology. You know, you're wading into all these muddy waters. Like, let me just make it clear for you. Like, I'll be the sacrifice. I'll be the one on the cross, and you guys be family. It's now he took the theological conversation out of the picture in some ways because he's the theology. Now it's just like you guys are saying, it's a relationship, and we're free to love each other and to say, you know what, I don't, like you said, Michelle, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I know that Jesus has figured it out for us.
And people like certainty. I think that causes a lot of the conflict, whether or not you pick any one side. It's the certainty of knowing that this is how it's going to be, and nobody knows how it's going to be. And I think that makes people uncomfortable. I hate uncertainty. I older I get, the more I realize that uncertainty is just really, really difficult. Like this whole retirement thing is just, for months it was driving me nuts because it's so uncertain. But I think that's part of the discomfort, insecurity, if you will, of a journey like this, because there's not going to be, here's the answer. There's not going to be a panacea of this is it. It's just going to be, messy, and we'll find a way through it. I mean, family, right? Just like you're saying. Yeah. Nobody's going to be in the same place. So it's almost like whatever side you're on, whatever you believe, whether you're on the right or the left or somewhere in between, wherever you're at that moment, somebody else is at some other location of this sphere. So we can't expect everybody to agree with us. So those who are passionate on the left, we're upset with those on the right. It's like, well, at this moment in time, that's how they feel, and they're journeying through their own process and trying to figure out things. And I think if we could just relax and just allow everybody's individual process to unfold, because it's never going to come together where every single 400 something people who are members are going to agree. They're never going to agree. So I think people just have to relax and give grace or whatever.
And respect for differences.
There's as much as parties who want to be accepted want to have that acceptance of other people and their opinions, so do the other people who are trying to maybe learn new ways or whatever. They need to be given time to journey through that. Can't be expected to all of a sudden be, oh yeah, I'm with you 100%. I may not be with you 100%, but I sure love you 100%. I'm still working through this part up here, this part right here, you're my brother, you're my sister, whatever. I love you, but up here, I'm trying to work through that stuff. There, there needs to be some grace for that process for where everybody is at. It's not ever going to be where everybody's going to agree 100%, right down the middle or on the right side or the left side. It's,
Yeah, that's a cult.
Yeah, right.
That's the only place where everybody
exactly.
agrees or has to.
I want to share something. I was going
sure.
through, in preparation for kind of today, I went through, I have a journal that I've kept specifically for Matt and my process through this. And then also at the sermon notes that I've kept over the years. So there's one underlying thing that I think has really spoken to me, is that one of my thoughts was God's net, because I was looking at the whole fishers of men concept, right? And how he's called us to be fishers of men. And I was looking this morning on how he told them they'd come back from fishing and their nets were empty. And then he sent them back out and he said, I don't remember if it was the right or left side, but cast your net out, right? And one of the notes that I'd made in my journal was that God's net is big enough for everyone. And at a later time, I felt like he had told me that when, we have a responsibility, God has given us a responsibility to be fishers of men. And that when we cast out that net and when we bring it back in, it is not our responsibility to sort, right? Who's worthy to be in the net, who's not worthy to be in the net. God has never called us to do that, nor are any of us worthy to pick who gets to stay in the net and who doesn't. It is simply our responsibility to cast it out, and it's big enough for everybody. So I think that's one of the things that I would hope for our church, and I'm still working through it, and for you guys now have to fit into the minutia of what that means as far as leadership, as far as Sunday school teachers, right? I don't have to work through that, so it's easier for me. But I think that was something that I really felt God had spoken to me.
I hope that people can let the guard down and allow themselves to be led by you, because that's really what I think needs to happen. They need to go through their own journey. They need to challenge you, disagree, whatever they need to do to process through that. But they have to allow themselves to be led by you. If they don't, then for them to be at the church, it's like what's the point? It's that's the first step. If they can just allow themselves to say, okay, I'm going to defer enough to allow myself to follow this journey that Pastor Jason is put upon us, and have the faith that we're going to come out of this at some point with a deeper understanding and help define what we're going to be about over a long period of time, knowing that whenever that happens, it's going to keep changing. That's what I would hope, is that people would follow your lead and see where this can go, because I think that there's things that they and us don't see that God has in store for us through what you're doing.
Bruce and Melanie are doing that. They did that class from a conservative side, right?
Yes.
And so, not knowing what it was, Greg and I went to the initial one.
I remember you there, yeah.
And so then we kind of decided, yeah, probably not a fit for us, right? And then we let them know that, just God bless your ministry, it's just not a fit for us. And then Matt came out with his magazine article 2 months later. And Melanie came up to me and she just kind of tapped me on the shoulder, touched my elbow, and it was just an indication of we may not be on that same page together, but I still love you, and and for your son as well. And so I thought that was a really great example of family.
Yeah.
I think that's what it looks like. I wanted to kind of go back, because it's been about 4.5 years since Matthew came out to us.
Mm.
And so I kind of kept a journal, and I wanted to read you a list of what I hope for Matthew, and I do for
Oh,
Austin as well, but just as a mother of a young gay man. And so it starts off as my hopes, dreams, and prayers and thoughts for you. That you know and feel you are loved unconditionally by us and by God exactly as you are. That our home is a safe haven, a refuge for you always. And that you are happy and find lasting peace and happiness. That you know that I am proud to be your mama and that you make me happy. And that God's protection over you is bigger than any prejudice you will face. That you remember that God is on your side. That God is not the same as the church or Christians, even when we think and hope they should be. That I am not worthy to judge or be juror, neither is anyone else. Only God is. That you stay focused on the cross because everything else is noise. That I am worthy and that you are worthy and that God is constant. This is mine.
Amen.